This is Listening with Franklin Livingston, and our guest is Matthew Dean Hollis.
I'm a big into the credit card game.
Game? You say
Yeah, the
game
game. I
as
say
if
game.
we have an episode where you teach
Yeah,
people how to play that game?
Yeah, I say game.
All right.
Yeah.
All right.
Because the credit card companies use that language.
Rewards.
They go, if they say, if we see you gaming the system, then we're going to not give you that credit card points or whatever.
So you gamed them?
I game the system.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's the reason why I got into that, is because I was traveling so much for work, but also traveling is expensive. So the more points I racked up, the more I don't have to pay for flights, because now I can just pay with points.
With points, yeah.
But that's what got me into that.
Oh,
realm,
cool.
Which is what got me into accounting, because I started learning more about financial literacy, mostly because I've seen a real lack of financial literacy in the entertainment community, especially, which I think is more important for entertainers to know how to manage their money well, because we don't get it often enough. So I've kind of delved into financial literacy and found bookkeeping as part of that, and then accounting, and then QuickBooks and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I've kind of delved into now.
So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, your interest in financial literacy. You have made a lot of difference, and making a difference in making people aware of dealing finances in a modern world. I'm going to remind us one thing I talked about. When God called Abraham, he did not give a blueprint in terms of a GPS direction of each and every corner or lay of the land. Anyone, I would say. When Jesus was on the earth, he had to also navigate a lot of stuff. And we even see the scripture reminding us that he escaped from a place, right? Likewise, Moses, on his way to the palace while going to talk to the Pharaoh, there might be a lot of challenges. What did he buy? What did he eat? We don't know that, but I'm sure he wasn't instructed about every detail. Instead, these people had basic understanding of what's in God's favor and not, right? For example, does God want humans to be happy, well fed, contented? Yes, right? But does he say exactly if you'll take left or right and do this and that? No. So in that case, one of the struggles I had with some people, I was surprised they don't value education, because they think if you're going to get educated, you have to go to college or a professional school. And if your parents can't afford, you can't afford, you should never take out student loans, because it's not, they would use this language, it's not biblical. It's not in God's plan. But I don't see that anywhere. It's the same thing. You want to travel. You got to have money, right?
Yeah.
But if you using your credit card, which a lot of us do,
Yeah.
then it's your decision. You got to be wise. But nowhere I see, oh my God, don't take out money from a credit store or a credit card, and don't buy this, because that's not the way you use it.
Yeah.
Where do you stand? How do you literate people or provide literacy over financial matters?
So I think that there is a wave of people who believe that getting a loan or owing money or being in debt to a company is wrong. Now, I don't know of any biblical text that says it's wrong to loan someone money or to get a loan from someone. I know that it is unbiblical to not pay your debt. Now, it never says that you shouldn't have had a debt. It says pay your debt, right? So I don't think that that's a clear cut thing from the Bible that it says don't ever borrow money. But there is this cash is king mentality of what's in front of me is what's real. So therefore, if I spend it, it's not in front of me anymore. It's not there, right? If you use a credit card, you now have to think about the money that you have. Because the credit card isn't money. The credit card's a piece of plastic. You're just going to swipe around, right? And then at the end of the month, you're going to get the bill with how much of that money you got to use that you already used, right? You borrowed. So part of it is learning how to budget, which is something that anybody can do. Anybody can understand that. It's very simple, but it's harder to implement because certain people are used to a certain way of life, right? Especially going from living at home to then going on your own right out of college. Now you have rent, you have food that you're paying for yourself, you have maybe you're taking classes on the side for something else. Maybe you're trying to figure out, okay, well, it's $2.90 for the Metro card every time I swipe it. That's a lot of money at the end of the week, let alone the end of the month. So there's
I would also throw in insurances.
Yeah.
Dental insurance and health insurance and eye insurance. Right?
Car insurance.
Yeah, if you have a car, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's a lot that goes into trying to find a budget. Now, being able to set limits on your credit cards can help you be able to say, okay, I can only spend this amount. And then if you try to swipe it, I can't anymore. So that's a good way of saying, okay, this is the money you have. Another way is to just know what's in your bank account and know, okay, this is how many months I can live off of this amount. A lot of people don't have emergency funds. Emergency funds are the greatest thing you'll ever do, which is set aside 3 to 6 months of your monthly income to then, if something were to happen, I have this pool of money here ready to take an action. And that's not included in your monthly income anymore. That's a separate account that you won't touch unless there's an emergency. There's a lot of credit cards out there that are no annual fee that you don't even need to pay for them,
I use those cards.
Yeah, it's
one of my cards actually is an annual fee.
Yeah.
But I agree with you because here's the thing. Bible and Jesus Christ and Apostle Paul, they never ever taught to go against the system that has been introduced about economy or justice in their own world, right? Even when a guy says about taxes, he says, okay, whatever belongs to Caesar, you give to Caesar, whatever belongs to God, you give to God, right? And we live in the world, especially in the United States, where most of the things that you need, apartment, rental apartment, car, lease or financed, even phone, if you finance, they'll run your credit score.
Yeah.
The credit check, they'll first of all say that, sign your credit check application, right? And then you're going to get your apartment. Or that's their way of assessing, determining whether or not you were able to rent a property. That's the system.
Yeah.
If we don't build up our credit, if we don't focus there, in a way, we are destroying our ability to live within a civilized society. Because, okay, you can't rent an apartment. Where will you live? Then whom will you complain? Will you say, God, you did not help me? But if you say, here's the thing. If you don't wear clothes to keep yourself warm, then will you say, hey, God, you didn't really help me during the winter? Whose fault is that? And that's what I said, that there's a piece of wisdom that all these people, no matter how big they were, King David or Abraham or Moses or Joshua, they all had to utilize that to go with day-to-day life. They had different challenges, different systems. For example, chariot as an example. If the nuts of a chariot were not fixed properly, then whom is to be blamed? God? We might not have chariot, but we might have similar kind of thing, like car.
Yeah.
If you don't
Yeah.
get your car fixed, and then you say, okay, God did not really save me from this thing. Is it really,
Yeah.
a truthful to yourself, or not? Say similarly, the basic thing I think credit cards do is they build up your credit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Your credit score these days is a FICO
Yep.
score.
Yep.
That's merely based on those cards.
Yeah.
And that can help you. So you have a great job, but a bad credit score, I don't think you'll get a good financing deal
Yeah.
because they're going to raise your APR.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Now, the other thing is, the other loans I'm going to talk about, money is a thing that always belonged to someone, always shared with someone, whether it's a New Testament, Old Testament. And then we have these parables and stories. That guy who owed money to the higher up, and higher up forgives that money. And then there's a guy who is uh, even at a lower position and all. So you're right. The money, the transfer of money and utilization of the money has always been there in the world.
Yeah.
Right. And we see that. Now, if you don't have a particular amount that you need, say you desire or you feel really called to go to
Yeah.
medical school,
Yeah.
that's where I have had struggles
Yeah.
with some people, and because it's not their fault, that's the way their church leaders taught them.
Yeah.
And here this person is determined to go to med school, and they can really make a difference in their community, but they are told not to take out a student loan. They can't do that.
Yeah.
Whose fault is that? Of course, miracles happen, they can pray. But what if it's the same thing? If God has given you an opportunity to go and get a winter coat, but you don't do that because you are expecting God to send it from heaven, I don't know if He's going to do that. He doesn't always do the way you want Him to do. There might be exceptions, but again, I don't think God likes to micromanage people, right? And then you take out 200,000 in loans. Go to medical school, begin working as a medical doctor, and you begin paying it back. I don't see anything wrong with that, because in the end of the day, you use a car, you pay monthly. Even if you don't pay, you still have to pay the insurance. Without that, you can't drive a car. That's the system.
Yeah.
You have to pay the deductible if you bought health insurance, dental insurance, where the premium wasn't high. You can't really say, I don't agree. Can you say to the state, I don't pay taxes? I don't know whether you're Christian or you are non-Christian. When you are living within the boundary of a state, uh, by state, I mean any government. Here it will be the United States. And when the system asks you to pay, you go and buy coffee. There's a sales tax, right?
Yeah.
And whatever you buy, a shampoo or a soap or whatever, would you argue? Can you? Do you have the ability to? That's why the scripture says, it doesn't say don't argue in that fashion, but when you are living within that framework, then you should abide by the system that has been given to you, right? Now, student loans is a part of the system.
Yeah.
I have seen, and I think there's a problem in a particular branch of Christianity, which is damaging its talent, its mind, the younger talent, people with potential who could be the best doctors and engineers and scientists and lawyers and mental health professionals, by stopping them from attaining higher education in the name of student loans.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because our topic with you in particular is financial literacy. Otherwise, I was also going to go in the direction that a lot of these church leaders say, oh, no, 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 don't go to Harvard, don't go to Yale, because they are so liberal. If your faith is that strong, should you be worried about that? If you're worried, I mean, maybe your faith is not a real faith. It's a joke, right?
That sounds like someone who's scared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But this financial literacy, that's what I
Yeah.
think. I think there's no problem in taking out a student loan because in the end, the way you'll pay for your car, monthly thing,
Mhm.
you can keep it. You have a house.
Yeah.
You know, Christian people, when they get married, some Christians, they really want to have a house,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
But when you have a house, till you die, you're going to keep paying taxes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you say no? No, it stops. Same thing with student loans.
Yeah.
If it stays with you for 25 years, so what? Will you
Yeah.
paying your house tax? Make a room for that student loan installment to be paid
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
I don't know where you stand with that in your
No,
financial
100%.
literacy, but
100%.
I think that you should work hard
Yeah.
and you should become an effective member of the community by attaining higher education,
Yes. Yeah.
professional
And
education.
I don't think, I think it would be a disservice to tell someone they shouldn't listen and adhere to the call. If
Mhm,
they're called to do something, they should do it.
mhm,
There shouldn't be anyone holding them back from what God's will is for them.
mhm,
So if that's taken out a loan to be able to make that
mhm,
happen, then that's what needs to happen.
mhm,
There are ways to make that work.
mhm,
And it's never going to be easy. It's never going to be, oh, it just fell in my lap and now I'm
mhm,
good.
mhm,
You're going to have to make hard decisions.
mhm,
It's about setting yourself up for success in the
mhm,
future
mhm,
and knowing that, okay, now I do have these student
mhm,
loans. I need to take care of them. I can't just set them aside and
mhm,
let interest build up.
mhm,
Same thing with credit card debt. A lot
mhm,
of people who are new to credit cards get credit card crazy, and now
mhm.
they can't pay it because they haven't been thoughtful about how much money they actually have. They just think, oh, I got this piece of paper flinging around,
That says
and
8 grand, and I can
yeah,
use the
yeah,
whole. Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
definitely. No, I think self control, awareness, literacy,
hmm
and then discipline.
yeah,
Right. These all pieces together make a character.
yeah,
And the morality, the moral side of it is, say your monthly income is 3 grand, but somehow your approved credit line is 8 grand.
hmm
But you got to be careful. You got to
yeah,
wise that, okay, it's a
yeah,
privilege given to you.
yeah,
Don't
yeah,
misuse it. God forbid, if you
yeah,
need it, then use
yeah,
it. Otherwise, focus on building up your credit,
hmm
because next time you want to live in a better neighborhood, they'll ask what's your credit score,
exactly,
right?
yeah,
Or you want to replace your car. Speaking of car, I've seen people who would say, "Oh, I'm just gonna get an older car because I don't have to pay. It's paid off."
hmm
But then the maintenance, if
yeah,
you calculate,
yeah,
and that's another thing where a lot of people don't understand the expense they're paying. Say, if you do side by side
yeah,
comparison
yeah,
after 10 years on a new car versus a
yeah.
10 years on an old car, because in their mind, that's what was taught, and no one asked it
Yeah.
why.
Which actually now, that's not true even. Older cars are now selling for the same amount as new cars off the lot.
Someone said that, yeah,
So
because of the
so it's
manufacturing.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's actually no reason to not get a new car
Right.
and avoid all that maintenance, avoid all that worry. Well, I bought it from this guy who said it works really well.
Right.
Uh-oh, the gas tank
Yeah.
isn't,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, absolutely.
you
Yeah.
avoid now all these uh-ohs,
Right.
and now you are covered by the place that you bought it.
hmm
But on top of that, if you buy it with a credit card, you're covered by the credit card company too.
hmm
So if you buy it with a credit card that has an annual fee,
hmm
you're covered insurance
hmm
up to a certain amount
hmm
for a new purchase of a car, a new
hmm
purchase of a phone, a
hmm
new purchase. When you make these big purchases,
hmm
you now no longer have to just rely on your insurance. You can also rely on the credit card
hmm
company.
hmm
So that's another added
hmm
benefit of having a credit card too.
I think one of the things I'm gonna go back to these
Yeah.
preachers, uh, slash teachers. A lot of these guys, a couple of people I can think of, who were so like against that students not should not get loans. In a
Mhm.
way, they are saying to me, it comes across they shouldn't get higher professional education. These were a bit outdated, old farmer-looking males who had their life. They got into pastorhood early on, and here they have served the church for 25, 30 years. They have everything they wanted in life. And they can't really relate to someone whose call is different or greater, in a way, greater than them. If someone, let's say, wants to be someone wants to join aeronauticals or NASA, or I don't know where you spend. I will always think of, say, somebody's doing MD and PhD together.
Yeah.
Because they want to be a medical doctor and a researcher and all that. Of course, like it's going to cost you a lot more. So these leaders, pastors, whatever you call them, they are unable, we use this language of going to their level, understanding their need.
Yeah.
And they live in their world where whatever they preach, teach, it sort of sounds like having a double standard, right? Because they can buy a car in cash, because some of these pastors can buy a plane.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they have planes. They can't relate to someone who doesn't have money to put down 40 grand to get a sedan.
Yeah.
They have to have a car financed. And the message then these people are getting from the leaders is, if you can't afford to put down cash for a newer car, just don't get a car, which I think is wrong. Right? But then they don't have the same objection when it comes to, say, what do you call, giving to the church.
Tithing.
Yeah. Or because they say, oh, if some of these guys will say, like, if you're gonna send us, if you send 1 grand right away, dial 0800 blah blah blah, and then see it's gonna multiply harvest and all that language. But I don't hear them saying only if you have that.
Yeah.
They expect you to somehow, because and then they add some reward program to that. They have their own reward program.
Yeah.
Right. And when it comes to house, the community in general, this is what I have seen. The conservative, fundamentalist Christian type in small towns, they will encourage, oh, you're a new couple, you should get a house. Think of getting a house now. You gotta have a house, you gotta have babies and all that. But no one says, no, you're gonna get into this. They have to do maintenance.
Yeah.
They have to pay taxes, right? So over there, I don't see that kind of objection or opposition.
Well,
but education it is.
I will say though that, so my girlfriend's from Kentucky, and
does she have an accent?
No.
I'm kidding.
We actually bought a trailer, camper trailer, a 5th wheel, and fixed it up and are selling it.
Oh.
So we're flipping it, and it's all done in Kentucky. We posted it on my Facebook Marketplace. So I've been checking Facebook Marketplace to see the interaction, whatnot. And so my phone says I'm in Kentucky, right? So I'm getting served things on Facebook Marketplace in Kentucky, and a lot of homes pop up. The average price of a home for a 4-bedroom, 2-bath is $200,000.
Wow. I was going to say $500,000.
On like 3 acres.
Oh.
The average rent for a studio apartment in New York City is $3,000.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Oh,
the difference.
Yeah.
So,
of course, yeah.
So that preacher that's telling that couple, oh, go get a home, that's feasible for them if they have a job at all. For the people in the city, if you were to say go get a home, they go, I don't have $1 million.
Yeah,
at least get a home.
$1.5 million.
Yeah,
it starts the studio. Yeah.
So the barrier to entry is so different.
Different, it is.
And the economics of the culture are so different that I think the ability to use that thought process in rural areas of America can be effective, but it would not hurt to use credit cards. It would not hurt to use the same things that you would use, same strategies you would use in a city across all of America.
I'm just going to give an example. I don't know how much it costs to flip this trailer.
Yeah.
But she didn't have cash in hand.
Yeah.
And you spent money.
Yeah.
in its maintenance using credit cards. And once you sell the trailer, you have it back.
Yeah.
More than that, right? So was it easier or was it difficult? If you didn't have a credit card and you were just waiting for that right time
Mm-hmm.
when you have enough money,
Yeah.
then you stuck with the trailer.
Yep.
You're gonna end up paying insurance. I don't know. Do you pay regular
No.
insurance on that? Okay, but say it was a
Yeah,
car,
yeah,
let's right,
yeah.
and then you're gonna end up paying car,
Uh-huh.
parking depending where it
Yep.
is, and I think that's more difficult.
Yeah.
Would God want you to be in a most difficult situation where you're stuck, or God wants you to be free and be happy? Happy here means contented
Mm-hmm.
with whatever you want to do. A lot of people,
Yeah.
a lot of people I've seen, they are working blue collared jobs, being unhappy because they would say, I don't have money to do what I really wanted to do. But then they were told, you gotta have that money. I'm not gonna support you.
Yep.
I can even go beyond, like biblical, let's say biblical Christianity.
Yeah.
Which I wish people could practice that in this day. Say the book of Acts or epistles. You have a community. There are people who can afford. There are people who can't afford. They put together money. They say, okay, hypothetically, Joe Smith's daughter wants to become a medical doctor. They can afford it. We all will pitch in money. We'll make her a doctor.
Mm-hmm.
Then we all will start a clinic here. Everybody gets some sort of benefit.
Mm-hmm.
And this can happen easily in a
Yeah.
small rural town,
Yeah.
right? Now, the girl's dream got fulfilled.
Yeah.
They got blessed by contributing into her life.
Mm-hmm.
She became a blessing to that community. And the community has been uplifted by the fact that they are doing something greater in other people's lives.
Yeah.
But instead of that, the idea is the community should tell that girl, don't think about becoming a doctor because your dad can't afford it, your mom can't afford it, you don't have money to do that, which means it's God's will for you to just become, let's say, work at a diner, become a waitress, right? Yeah. And I think that's also a way a lot of the leader doesn't matter, a pastor, leader could be a community leader, could be a head of the household, push people into uh, masculine slavery. I'm using that in a particular sense. A musical waitress, right? And her life, and her husband. I just still remember that scene where he just takes cash from her, tips and all, right? So slavery could be of different sort because you use the term toxic masculinity, so I kind of like rephrase it into masculine slavery. But indirectly, unknowingly, people oppress people.
Yeah.
People take away their freedom and their joy. Everyone's joy is not, as we talked about this. First of all, they are not called. Secondly, their joy is not becoming a pastor. Like from the pulpit pastor, right? You can do the pastoral work from the outside of a church's wall, which you have been doing, right? Same thing when we impose our belief system. Oh, this is bad, this is wrong, which might not be in alignment with God's plan for humankind. Yeah. I think that we end up destroying people's lives instead of saving their lives.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
But again, I'm not a financial expert. I just know that finances, look, there was the Last Supper. Somebody cooked a meal. Somebody bought that wine. Tables were laid. Probably somebody did the dishes, all that stuff. It involved money, right?
Yeah.
And everything, like when they brought that donkey and you said, go there and there'll be a guy and tell them Master wants it. Right. Now, Jesus had some sort of understanding with that dude. I don't know, they were friends or whatever. But didn't they borrow it? So isn't borrowing taking out a loan?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And when we go to like a lot of Old Testament narratives, somebody took something from. So borrowing means when something is officially owned by somebody else and you bring it into your utilization, right?
Yeah.
Apostle Paul, they hosted their meetings at people's homes, right? So if Paul was the head of that church, not the head like the Christ, the
Yeah,
head of
yeah.
the church, like the senior leader.
Yeah.
So if the Paul was, or Barnabas was, or Peter was, that property did not belong to them. They utilized it. They borrowed it. Isn't that taking out a loan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then you think about the master and the three servants, where he gives them all talents.
Talents, yeah.
And then they each.
One guy says, "Oh,
Yeah,
I
one
do that."
guy buries it, and the other two went out and
Yeah.
made more talents.
Yeah.
They invested it. And the two that invested, good and faithful servant, you're going to be put over even more. And the one that buried it, well, you didn't do anything. Why didn't you do anything? That's not good.
Yeah.
That's how we're supposed to treat ourselves, but also our finances and our relationship to God. We're not supposed to just be, okay, well, I got a relationship with God, so that's enough. We're supposed to constantly be trying to foster a better relationship, trying to know him more, trying to read our Bible, trying to get closer to him. We're supposed to have money, and when we save money, we invest it. We try to make that money grow so that it can afford us time to relax. We live a very stressful life.
Oh, yeah.
We're on all the time. Yeah. And when we're not on, we're on our phones looking at other things that are distracting us from what really matters. So I think everybody deserves a time where they can say, you know what? In a couple months, we can go somewhere upstate. Yeah. We can go to an Airbnb and just sleep and relax and get away for 3 days. Everybody should be able to do that once a year. And you put whatever you pay in a year, anybody, they put it on a credit card, you could probably pay for a 3-night stay every year at an Airbnb somewhere. That's
even if you think like I'm gonna just like separate $25.
Yeah.
Right? Multiply by 12. But I think that's the difference where if you say no, try saving it up when you'll have it, then so the charm goes away.
Yeah.
Then you are the one who's taking yourself into the exile, into the wilderness.
But right? I think it also has to do with humility too. Is if you say make $1 million and you go, oh, well, I have $1 million, so now I could go on a trip and I'm going to pay for it in cash.
Right.
Look how cool
I was being more realistic.
You know?
If you,
But
if you, let's say you're a theater actor.
Yeah.
Off Broadway. I'm not even talking about Broadway. Then you have thus much resources.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is how to manage resources or how to enjoy life and then deal with finances. And one of the ways is you can deal with credit cards.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And I was going more on in the professional side that if you want to be like an engineer or a doctor or these degrees that require a lot of money.
Yeah.
But then unless you have a degree, you can't become one of those.
Yeah. Well, another way to do it too is if you're doing continuing education. So let's say you already did your 4-year degree, finding a job that will actually pay you to
go to college,
a grad school or something like that. So like I'm a personal trainer, and I got my certificate paid for through the gym that I'm working for because I said, hey, I'm not certified already. Would you be willing to reimburse me for the certification so that I can be a personal trainer? Because I already have the experience. I just don't have the certification. Right. And they said, yeah, sure, we'll pay for that for you. And even Abby, my girlfriend, she has programs within her job that say, hey, if you want to learn this other sector, we'll pay for you to learn that. We'll pay for you to gain that knowledge.
Right.
And that's another way of seeing the value of a job. Because a lot of people see a job as just, this is the money that I'll get every month from this job. Versus this is the money I can get, but this is also the growth I can get from it.
Exactly.
This is also what I can learn from it.
Yeah.
And then once I learn that, I can grow and go to a different job.
Mhm.
And maybe I'll learn something different over there.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of people, especially in the generation before me, have gotten stagnant
Hmm.
in their life. And that stagnation in anything
It's
kills.
not gonna. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
If you're stagnant in your faith, it's killing you, right? You got to constantly be growing, constantly be learning.
Mhm.
So the more you can seek opportunities to better yourself, but not only yourself, but your community
Mhm.
and the people around you, because when you better yourself, you're now better for them, right?
Absolutely.
So
yeah.
the better you
You
are,
are, yeah.
the better
Yeah.
you'll be to other people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
putting yourself in that position more and more is going to just build you up and build the people around you more.
I'm gonna actually add something here. I have a collaborator, and she lives in Clinton,
Mhm.
Connecticut. And once I heard her talking about hospitals, she said, so where she lives, New Haven Hospital is an hour and a half away. And then I don't know where, Norwalk or whatever. But they don't have any hospital nearby. I have a friend whose family lives in a small town of California. Her dad, according to her, broke his rib, and they did not have an X-ray technician at the clinic they went to. Now, just imagine if this is a community of faith,
Mhm.
very vibrant. Their resources are uh, like they're not privileged, but they have passionate four young people who want to study. Like someone wants to become a radiologist, the other one wants to become an internal medical medicine doctor, then a cardiologist, and orthopedic surgeon. Four people, right? Now these four young people take out student loans, study, get their degree, and within their area, within the given resources, set out a clinic where they can treat all that stuff. And now they get some sort of financing from a franchise who wants to extend their medical center there.
Mhm.
Just because they know four doctors are there, they don't want to leave, and this community needs a medical facility. Did they become a blessing or not? But I think early on when we were talking about the terminologies, when people hear the term loan, they freak out.
Mhm.
And when they hear student loans, they don't freak out, they just massively freak
Yeah.
out, right?
Yeah.
And when they hear something borrowing or utilizing somebody's, as I mentioned, space or a car or something, they don't right away think like that. You take someone's car and then, bam, you're in a crash, and then you owe them, right? And risk is always there.
Yeah.
When you step out of your home, you are still at less risk than within the walls of your home.
Mhm.
Why? Because you have wood, you have water, you have electricity, you have fire, the stoves, and all that. In general, people think, oh my God, I'm so safe, I'm home.
Yeah.
But it's an idea.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I'm going to give a very stupid example. You fly,
Mhm.
right? And they do a thorough thing, like you shouldn't have a gun.
Yeah.
They might say you shouldn't have a weapon. Anything could become a weapon if people don't behave properly
Mhm.
in that tube little thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And depending how big the craft is, let's say there are 300 people.
Yeah.
Why is it important to have a moral formation? Again, why? Which is the podcast. Because unless people behave in a proper manner, anything could be dangerous.
Mhm.
A piece of dish that when they serve food could be dangerous.
Yeah.
Especially in the first class, they serve in the real
Yeah.
China,
Yeah.
right? Same thing. Loans are bad when you don't utilize them wisely,
Yeah.
when you don't have a vision,
Mhm.
and making it so black and white is wrong, because I don't think, first of all, as you mentioned, there's nothing like biblical. Secondly, that's the system we live in.
Mhm.
As you mentioned, if someone needs a 3-day trip, a vacay, they can easily, okay, how expensive was that? $500, as an example,
Yeah.
for 1 grand.
Yeah.
All right, babe, I gotta pay off this credit thingy, and it gives me. There were cards that were 12 months, no APR or something.
Yeah, intro
APR.
offers. Yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So I'm not saying that being a problem, because even, let's say, giving a very bad example, you bought a home. Now COVID hit. You don't know whether or not you'll have money to pay your taxes.
Hmm.
You're still doomed.
Yeah.
So saying that because I don't have loans, I know my future is secure, I think that's
No,
not
yeah.
biblical.
Well,
That's becoming a
naive.
god.
That's
Yeah,
naive.
yeah. You
Yeah,
don't know the
yeah,
future.
yeah.
That's naive. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So great work. Yeah, I think that's great thing you're doing, encouraging people to think about alternatives.
Yeah.
Think about why.
Hmm.
Why don't take out loans? Why?
Yeah, yeah. Well, also just
Eventually.
debunking some of the words that finances use, like APR. What?
I hope
Yeah,
people know
yeah,
that. I've used
yeah.
that a couple of times, and
But
and
a lot of the financial literacy that I want to do is for kids in high school and college
Mhm,
to set them up for success once they get into
mhm.
the real world and have to learn these things, because a
That's
lot of
good.
my friends don't know these
Yeah,
things.
yeah, absolutely.
Interest rates, they don't get what that means, or they know what the words mean, but they don't understand the
Mhm.
context of it.
A lot of actually, when I was in acting school and uh, coming out of the schools, a lot of people did not know how to file taxes,
Yeah.
or how to understand taxes in the entertainment
Nobody
industry.
does.
Yeah,
Nobody does. Everybody I talk to is like, yeah, I don't know how to do this.
yeah,
And
because most
so
of
I
them are
end up,
self-employed.
I end up telling them things they should take, and
Yeah.
I
What
explain
is
deductions.
deductibles?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
But there are so many little things that people don't think of until it's happening to them.
Mhm.
Until, I'm faced with this now.
Mhm.
Or opportunities that people aren't taking because they don't have the information. So that's more about it.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
providing information so that then the individual can make a actual decision based on logic,
Mhm.
rather than based on what they've been told by their dad or by the YouTuber they saw,
Mhm.
or yeah.
Yeah. Matt, it was a pleasure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you.
And I hope you enjoy the train ride back home. Yeah. And the weather will still be cold.
Yeah.
But thank you. It was I think it was very informative, and I thoroughly enjoyed talking to you, learning about different things and revising a lot of things. And I wish that we had more time, but hopefully our audience will enjoy it too. And thank you again. I wish you well about everything, you and your girlfriend, and your spiritual journey, your acting,
Thank you.
your accounting, and your gym training, and all that you do. Keep it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.